Is the White House about to send the U.S. military into Portland over cries of domestic terrorism? Tonight, we unpack President Trump's most aggressive domestic deployment yet and ask, is this security or a power play? In late September 2025, Donald Trump announced via social media that he would deploy troops to Portland, Oregon to protect war-ravaged Portland and federal ICE facilities. He claimed these sites were under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists, and said he was authorizing full force, if necessary. He directed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops for this mission. The deployment is part of a broader pattern. Earlier in 2025, Trump sent federal forces into Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., under similar justifications. The plan is now expanding. Portland, once seen as a flashpoint for protests in 2020, is now being framed as a national crisis zone. Trump's narrative hinges on the idea that Portland is in chaos, that radical leftists or anarchists are trying to overrun government facilities. But local officials tell a different story. Portland's mayor, Keith Wilson, responded bluntly, "The number of necessary troops is zero in Portland and any other American city." He added, "The president will not find lawlessness or violence here unless he plans to perpetrate it." Meanwhile, Oregon Governor Tina Kotek said she sees no national security threat and insisted the state could manage its own public safety. She called the deployment an overreach. Data supports their stance. In the first half of 2025, homicides in Portland reportedly dropped by 51% compared to the same period a year earlier. And on the streets that weekend, life appeared peaceful: joggers, cyclists, people strolling by fountains. No signs of insurrection. Some analysts argue Trump's picture is exaggerated, possibly misled by old protest footage or partisan media. In fact, earlier in September, he was shown viral videos from 2020 protests and claimed Portland remained in crisis, when in reality current demonstrations were modest and largely confined to the ICE building. Deploying troops onto U.S. soil for law enforcement purposes triggers major legal questions. The Posse Comit Act restricts use of the U.S. military for domestic policing. Some legal experts warn that sending active duty troops without state consent could violate constitutional checks and balances. Another tool is the Insurrection Act of 1807, historically invoked to deploy troops during rebellions or to enforce federal law when states refuse. But there is no clear, credible case that Portland is in insurrection or that local authorities are incapacitated. Politically, this is a high-stakes maneuver. Trump's deployment aligns with his express strategy of using federal force against cities led by Democrats. Critics say it's an attempt to stoke conflict, manufacture a national crisis, and expand presidential power. 1. Troop arrival escalation. Armored vehicles and National Guard units may begin appearing around the ICE facility and federal buildings. Videos have already surfaced of armored vehicles arriving in Portland. The question, will their mission remain protective or shift to more aggressive suppression? 2. Local resistance. Legal pushback. Portland officials have already made clear they will resist. Any attempt to override state autonomy or detain protesters en masse could provoke court challenges or standoffs. 3. Precedent.